That, my friends, is a game that you simply cannot lose. Awful situational hitting, some awful fielding, a brutal play, a brutal end to this game as the Angels blow it in DC in extra innings against the Nationals. We'll talk about this very disappointing loss on tonight's edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast right now.
You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Halo Nation, hello, Halo hopefuls, and hello, Postcast people, and welcome to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast, coming at you live, as always, from the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, and after the fact, wherever you get the Locked On Angels podcast feed. If you don't know who I am, I'm Gavin Carlson. I spent 4 years as a credentialed journalist in the LA area, and I am now, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Angels lose this one 3-2 to the Washington Nationals in the series opener in DC, coming off two great series wins against the Mets, against the Yankees. Now you have an opponent that the Angels are maybe not favorites against, but certainly should be competitive against. And it's not like this game wasn't competitive, but really a huge missed opportunity for the Halos tonight. You get a great start from Jose Soriano. For the most part, the bullpen is solid. And you lose. Why? Because the hitting was really, really not good. I mean, you had 10 hits, but situational hitting, runners in scoring position, sack bunt opportunities, it was all awful. A lot of empty stats in this lineup, a lot of hits from guys that didn't really mean anything in this game. And then talk about a collapse in the end. You give up the game-tying run in the bottom of the eighth. That's brutal, but not as bad as Luis Guillorme kind of diving away from the what would be ruled walk-off single. Really could have been called an error. I mean, they probably won't call that an error, but a line drive right at Luis Guillorme could have easily been caught. 2 outs, bottom of the 10th. Maybe Ben Joyce gets out of it, but instead, Guillorme just doesn't make a good play on the ball at all, and the ball gets through. The Angels lose. A disappointing one in 10 innings. We'll break it all down. We'll talk about the offensive performance and why 10 hits is not good enough when you look at the context of those hits. We'll talk about Soriano because you know how much I love Jose Soriano, and once again, he showed you why. He was great tonight, and the bullpen, for the most part, was pretty darn good as well, and yet a loss. Really, really disappointing. We will start talking about that 10th inning a little bit more. The last 3 innings, 8, 9, and 10. But before we do, quick shout out to everybody in here. A lot of comments, a lot of frustrated Angels fans in the comments tonight, and I'm not surprised. It's just infuriating. The second you string together back-to-back series wins, the second we're talking about, hey, let's build some confidence. We're not competing for anything, but let's make sure we don't get 100 losses. Let's maybe get closer to 500. Let's make it 3 straight series wins. Really favorable matchup, good opportunity against a struggling Nats team, and we just blow it. It's just so frustrating. But before we dive into things, a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. This podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And we start this one in the bottom of the 8th inning because that's when things really started, right? The Angels up 2-1 at this point certainly did not have a great performance from the lineup. Certainly, Soriano was great. And we get to the 8th inning. Soriano has been pulled innings before at this point. 7th inning, it was Hunter Strickland who pitched, and good 1-2-3 inning. Then in the 8th, it's Jose Quijada who comes in. And Jose Quijada, I'm not going to rip into this guy, despite giving up the run. He has been really darn good since we brought him back, or since he came back from injury. He was great, or has been great. And so, of course, he gives up the run that ends up tying the game. It was a poor outing from him. 2 hits, the earned run in, his inning of work. But I'm not going to rip into him. The end of the day, this is a missed opportunity, not because Jose Quijada gave up a run in the 8th. And really, not even because Luis Guillorme dove away from a ball in the 10th. This loss is a missed opportunity because you gave up 3 runs and lost the game. You gave up 2 runs in 9 innings and lost the game. How many more times are we going to say that this pitching staff exceeded expectations? Jose Soriano, at the end of the day, is a former reliever who's young and inexperienced and continues to shove. The bullpen is Hunter Strickland, who's not been good, especially as of late, pitching well. Jose Quijada gives up 1 run. Oh well. Matt Moore pitches a scoreless 9th inning, and you're telling me you lose this game. It is not on the pitching staff. Don't let anyone fool you. And of course, Guillorme missing that ball in the 10th is what ends up losing the game, but it is not what lost the game. The lack of runners in scoring position hitting, the lack of situational hitting, the failed sac bunt attempt from Nolan Shanuel, the out from Taylor Ward with the runner on third, Anthony Rendon, that is what lost this game, okay? Let's not mistake it with anything else. But we will jump to the 8th just in case some people might have not seen this one. I know a lot of people in the comments say that they don't get to see everything. Quijada comes in and he immediately gets a first out. But then Alex Call, who would end up hitting the walk-off single in air quotes, has a 1-out single. Then Luis Garcia with the 1-out single once again, and Alex Call gets all the way to third. Really risky play, going from first to third on the base hit, but it works out. And this was just a case of the Nats have nothing to lose. They're not playing for anything, and that's why it makes it so frustrating. We don't got much to lose either. And yet the other team always seems to be better at playing aggressive base running baseball, better at playing small ball, better at sac bunts, better at sac flies than us. This is a perfect example. First to third from Call. Now it's first and third with 1 out, and all Yepes has to do is have a sac fly. And he does. Situational hitting, situational base running, situational everything. Despite doing nothing all game long, all the Nationals had to do was have 2 singles, an aggressive first to third base running, and then a sac fly. It's really frustrating because they were not great tonight. 2 errors by us, walks, but also just no offense, right? 2 singles and a sac fly should not be enough to tie a game when you've given up 1 run otherwise, and yet it is. It's small ball done to perfection, something we could not do. And that was not the only case. We fast forward to the 10th, and what happens? After the Angels manage to not score with a runner starting on second base in the top of the 10th, what do the Nats do? They perfectly execute the sac bunt right away. Right away. Right away. It's so frustrating that when we come up in the top of the 10th, it's ground out, runner on third with 2 outs. Eventually, the inning is over. Meanwhile, when the Nats come up, it's immediately. First pitch, Nunez executes a perfect bunt. Bunted down the third base line. You know exactly what to do. Make the third baseman have to field it so he can't make a play at third. You move him over. Then you've got an impossible situation for Ben Joyce. And surely enough, he does a decent job. I mean, the ball was hit hard, but Alex Call rips a line drive right at Guillorme. Guillorme misses it, and the ball game is over. But once again, we can be extremely frustrated that Guillorme did not make the play. We can, some people in the comments are saying, why is he even in? I don't think that's fair to say. He's been an above average fielder all year. Guillorme has. Let's not act like he hasn't. He had that unbelievable diving catch. He's had double plays. He's had backhanded plays. He's had diving plays. He has been good in the field. At second, at third, he deserves credit. And so while he had a misplay here, I'm not going to blame Ron Washington for having him in the game at second. And I'm not even going to say that is what lost the game. The moral of the story is teams are better at playing small ball than the Angels. And for a lineup that never does anything other than a game or two where they absolutely explode, like we've seen a couple times recently, if the lineup doesn't explode, it does nothing. And the reason is you're swinging for home runs, for extra base hits. You're never just getting guys on. And when you do, you're not executing. Today was not a case. It was a rare case of, it wasn't a 3-hit game for the Angels. 10 hits. 10 hits. But you don't hit guys in. And one of the more frustrating at-bats was when we have an opportunity for a sac bunt and we blow it. Top of the 7th inning. Brandon Drury base hit. Michael Stefanic base hit. We know how much I love Nolan Shanuel, how much most of you love Nolan Shanuel. He should be the leadoff hitter of the next 10 years for the Angels. But part of being a leadoff hitter is not just having a good average, not just having a lot of base hits. It's being able to drop down to bunt with first and second, nobody out. And Shanuel pops out in foul territory. Just look at how different those two situations are. First and second, nobody out, and you bunt and pop out. Meanwhile, they come up in the top of the 10th, and on the first pitch, drop down a perfect bunt, a perfect sack bunt. Right? And then even then, you still got first and second with one out. What happens? Ground out, strikeout, inning over, runner stranded at second base. 2 runners stranded overall. It's just frustrating. We know that this team is not going to consistently have 13 hits. But it's more frustrating when we do have 10 hits and lose the game. That's honestly more frustrating than the games where we have 2 and 3 hits and just look lifeless. Right? It's frustrating for so many reasons. A lot of comments here talking about the Guillorme play still. We'll get to those after the first break here. I was going to talk about Jo Adell having the big swing, Soriano. We'll get to that a little bit later. Clearly, everyone wants to talk about the Stefanic Guillorme stuff at second base. So we'll take a break. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Then we'll talk about what else the offense did, more runners being stranded, Jo Adell's huge home run. Then we'll get to Soriano and company after the break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, today's show is brought to you by Liquid IV. When you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. If you don't know what Liquid IV is, it's scientifically formulated to quickly replenish electrolytes and fluids lost from sweat or exercise. It's got 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients, all in a single stick. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It's powered by LIV Hydroscience. It's got the optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and those nutrients like I was talking about. 3 times the electrolytes. You got to love it. And here's the other thing. Always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So no more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. And today's show is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast in a really frustrated comment section, and rightfully so. The Angels up 2-1 against the Nats the whole game. They lose the lead in the 8th. They end up losing in extras in the 10th, right when this team wins back-to-back series, right when you have a favorable matchup in D.C. You can make it 3 series wins in a row. Of course, you can still win this series, but man, would have been nice to win this game. No reason you should lose this game when you get 6 great innings from Soriano. You get a nice inning from Hunter Strickland. You get a nice inning from Matt Moore. You get a 2-run shot from Jo Adell early in this game, and you lose. Why? Because you can't hit with runners in scoring position. And that's what I'm going to talk about. We're going to get one more. We'll get to Guillorme one more time and the misplay, because clearly people are still debating it. But we have to talk more about what this Angels offense didn't do, because this is the reason they lost the game. Not what happened in innings 8 and 10, even though you give up runs in both of those. Top of the second, we got our runs. Kevin Pillar with the leadoff single. Taylor Ward lined out. And then we have the pickoff caught stealing with Kevin Pillar. But there's a throwing error, and Pillar ends up getting all the way to third. Love to see that. Rendon pops out, and then it's Jo Adell with Kevin Pillar on third, and on the first pitch of the at-bat, he gets a fastball right down the middle, and oh my word, did he turn on it. 106.5 exit velo. He hit it 431 feet. He's got 17 home runs. He's over 50 RBIs. I know he's still barely hitting 200, but I can't lie. As much as I've been critical, as anyone has been, with Jo Adell and me saying he should not be playing every game, I got to give him credit for a couple things. He does occasionally give you that big home run, that extra base hit. He had the bases clearing double, right, yesterday. And he also has been a really above average fielder as of late. So you got to give him credit where credit is due. But this was not good enough. Not for him, but for this lineup. Top of the third, we get one hit from Michael Stefanic, who, let me just keep saying, man, Michael Stefanic is here to stay, and he needs to be moved up in the lineup. He is a part of this young core. I'm going to say it now. It's not, he has a chance to join Shanuel and Neto and O'Hoppe. All right, O'Hoppe has been brutal. I think he's like 0 of his last 21 or something. Strikes out 3 more times. He's starting to have Taylor Ward type of games. 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Again, he has fallen off a cliff. Meanwhile, Stefanic, 2 for 3 tonight. He's hitting 340. He's like one more good game away from the OPS being over 800. 340. We know the sample size is much smaller than most players. But come on. At this point, since he's got called back up, with Rendon getting hurt, now Rengifo done for the year, obviously Rendon back. But Stefanic should be playing every day. He should certainly be hitting above Brandon Drury, at the very least. And he's been great. He deserves the credit. He had a base hit in the third. Obviously nothing else happened that inning. We go to the fourth, and Pillar reaches on a throwing error. The Nats, once again, the Nats did not play a game that was warranted a victory. Because not only did they do nothing offensively, but they were just as bad defensively. Throwing error here. Then Rendon gets a single, and man, Rendon has a great game, ironically, in the return to DC. 3 hits in his 5 at-bats. He has a single here to make it first and second with 1 out. Runner in scoring position, but what happens? Back-to-back out. Jo Adell flies out. Brandon Drury grounds out. Decent play from the Nats. Inning over. Runner left stranded on second base. 1-2-3 top of the 5th. But then we go to the 6th. Quick 2 outs, but then a 2-out rally. Taylor Ward single. Anthony Rendon single. And once again, Jo Adell flies out with the runner in scoring position. So even when Jo Adell is technically the hero early on with the 2-run shot, he still has back-to-back at-bats after that where he leaves a runner stranded on second base. Then we go to the 7th we already talked about. Back-to-back singles and the blown, I think this was the turning point. It really felt like the Angels could have pulled away at this moment. You're still up 2-1. You've got first and second with nobody out. Shanuel up easily. He gets a base hit, and Barnes gets pulled because it's 3-1, and there's still rallies going. Instead, he pops out on the bunt. I'm not mad at the bunt decision. And someone here in the comments who, unfortunately, the name is in a language that I don't know, so I apologize for not being able to say your name, but he says, I hate letting Nolan bunt. He's not the right guy to bunt. We should have kept Stefanic in the game. Luis Guillorme didn't even get his job done. We'll get to that one more time, but I disagree, respectfully, and welcome. I think this was your first postcast, or at least your first one leaving a comment. I appreciate it, but I respectfully disagree. Whether or not Shanuel is a great bunter, with first and second, nobody out, when this lineup has proven that they're not getting it done hitting-wise with runners in scoring position, I absolutely love the decision to sack bunt. Because I don't care if you are a tall first baseman who happens to be a contact hitter or a guy who's 5'5" and is good at bunting. Either way, you should be able to drop down a sack bunt. And he was not able to. He didn't even hit it on the ground. At least if he has a sack bunt and they make a good play and they throw the guy, they get the lead runner at third and it still ends up being first and second with 1 out, at least you got the bunt down. He didn't even get it down. And so I get what you're saying. Technically, in hindsight, it's a bad decision to have him bunt since he wasn't able to get it done. But I think the decision, coaching-wise, is right, and this is on the player to get the bunt down. That felt like the turning point. Instead of it being second and third with 1 out, with your guys that you want hitting, whether or not they're hot or cold, Zach Neto has certainly been red hot, and imagine if he comes up with second and third and 1 out. I'm at least thinking Zach Neto's going to get a sac fly, but the way he's been hitting out of the late, I'm thinking he's getting a base hit and blowing this game open, making it 4-1 and making it look like the Angels are going to ease into a victory. But instead, he comes up with 2 outs, with an out, just still runners on first and second, and you get the back-to-back outs, including another O'Hoppe strikeout, right? You're just leaving runners stranded. 8th inning, we're still not done. Taylor Ward, who also had a great game. 1-out single. Anthony Rendon, 1-out single. Throwing errors everywhere. Rendon stealing second base. All sorts of jazz. 1-out second and third. Joe Adell, good at bat. But this is now the 3rd time I'm mentioning it. Joe Adell does not get the job done with the runner scoring position. So while he has the biggest swing of the game, he also has arguably 3 of the biggest failed at-bats of the game. That's what happens when you're a young team with inconsistent hitters. And so I'm not going to blame this one on Joe Adell, because at the end of the day, he still had a swing that produced 2 runs. But that's the difference between a bad team or a average team and a great team, is having professional hitters that aren't going to say, I had a 2-run homer, I'm done for the day. They're also going to at least one of those 3 times with the runner in scoring position convert. And Joe Adell goes 0 for 3. We know Brandon Drury is really never going to come through. He gets out, and then you don't get anything in the 8th. 9th inning was 1, 2, 3. We know how the 10th went. We already said it. But at the end of the day, how many times did I just say that there was a runner on second base and the Angels didn't do nothing? That's what decides games. And so I cannot blame the coaching staff, Ron Washington, everybody, for deciding to go for sack bunts when, swinging regularly with the runner on second was not getting it done. One more time, we're going to talk about this Guillorme Stefanic deal at second base. Okay? I'm going to declare myself the number 1 Michael Stefanic fan in this room right now. I have been beating the drum for him to stop getting disrespected by Angels fans, to be given a chance. Since then, he's been red hot. Now I'm begging for them to move him up in the lineup. But I'm going to say it one more time, because we have this comment here saying it should have been Stefanic in the game. Fudd Alex, we know I love Fudd Alex. He's always been here. He says Stefanic should have stayed. I think there was 1 or 2 other comments that said Stefanic should have stayed. Easton here, Easton, welcome. I believe this is your first time at least leaving a comment, but maybe your first time in the podcast. Welcome to you as well. We appreciate it. He says, pull Stefanic for a guy that can't hit, then he jumps out of the way of the baseball. That is exactly what happened. But I'm not blaming Ron Washington. I'm sorry. I'm not. Luis Guillorme, I'll say it one more time, has been an above average fielder for the Angels this year. He has made above average plays. And so is this play a above average play if he makes it? No. I think this is a C+, B- type of play if you make it. And instead he gave it a C-, D+ effort. And he missed the ball completely. And he looked bad doing it, and it cost you the game. But this is not a coaching mistake. He put in a better fielder late in the game, and he honestly kind of called it, because the ball got hit right to that better fielder. And he just didn't get it done. So please, I don't think this is on Ron Washington. This is simply on Luis Guillorme, and this is just what happens when you're a bad baseball team. It's about consistency in this sport. You're an amazing player if you get a hit 3 times out of 10. You're an amazing fielder if you make that play 2 out of 3 times, I'd say. And this was one of those 3 times that Guillorme doesn't make the play. The same way this was one of those games where all these opportunities with runners in scoring position, and instead of getting a hit 3 out of the 10 times, we basically never did, other than the Adell home run. So consistency. Earlier in the year, I was talking about resilience, wanting to see this lineup come through after having rough starts to games, wanting to see pitchers be able to get out of jams, wanting to see closers come in with runners on base and come through. We're starting to see that a little bit more. But in order to become a team that's sniffing 500 baseball, now it's about being even remotely consistent. And this team is so far from that. There's still so many comments in here that I want to get to. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, I have to talk about Jose Soriano, because my boy was great, okay? He was great. Wasn't in a win, though. So frustrating. We'll talk about that. We'll get to your comments, and we'll wrap this thing up here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. And finally, once again, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you don't know what it is, it's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. 5 million. Why? Because it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps where it's you competing against people with algorithms and AI and linear regression and statistics and all this stuff I keep ranting about. Because trust me, I've experienced it. I've played those other sites and apps where you're going against people who've got that. And you're just an innocent guy trying to talk about sports. On Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player snap projections and watch the winnings roll in. What type of winnings? Well, right now you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. That's right, you could turn $10 into $1,000 and get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games going on Prize Picks. With Prize Picks, watch Team USA rack up the gold and make a Prize Picks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Okay? They also have great promotions on Tuesdays. They lower certain stats to make it easier for your lineup to hit. And on Fridays, if you have a losing lineup, you get your entry fees back. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It is that easy. Back here live one more time on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. I'm Gavin Carlson. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. Shout out to everybody in here. The crowd has been really, really great as of late. Why? Because this is the most consistent post-game show. We are here every day, every game. Sometimes it's a doubleheader after a rainout in the Bronx. Sometimes it's a day game. Sometimes it's a night game. Sometimes I'm happy because the Angels won. Sometimes I'm mad on a night like today where the Angels lose. But no matter what, I am here, and shout out to all the loyal people that are in here as well. The Fut Alexes, the Anaheim Angels, the BCs, the Daniel Berries, the Jeffs, the Skylers, all of you. And now some new faces, some new icons I'm seeing. Easton Dutton, welcome to you. Joe Santa Cruz, welcome. Who else? Oh yeah, the name I can't pronounce, unfortunately, but welcome to you as well. We're going to get to your comments in a second, but real quick, we have to talk about Jose Soriano because lately, whether it's a win or a loss, it seems like there's a great pitching performance that isn't the A story. Just like Tyler Anderson yesterday, pitching a great game but not getting talked about until the third segment. Today, Jose Soriano, 6 innings, gives up just 4 hits, 1 earned run, just 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. One of his stronger performances of the year. The ERA is down to 3.36. Come on now. He's been really, really good. You know that I love him because he has the upside, because I think there's still another tier he can easily reach. He's got the perfect pitch repertoire for 2024. Throw hard, throw a great sinker, throw a nice slider away or changeup or whatever, splitter, whatever it looks like. He has the repertoire you want. He also has very little experience. This guy has started 19 games all this year. Before that, of course, he was a reliever. And he's only 6-7 this year because, like most Angels pitchers, he gets no run support. But the whip is 1.19. The ERA is 3.36 in 109 innings. He's been great. He has been great. And we're seeing less and less games where he explodes and has awful starts. He had a couple, I'd say his month of July wasn't as good of his month as his month of June. And really his month of May as well. The ERA was 4.26 in the month of July. In June, it was 1.93. In May, it was 3.28, right? And it's pretty darn good so far. It's 0.75 in the month of August. A second straight start where he goes 6 innings and gives up 5 or less hits. What I liked most about this start is the 1 walk with the 7 strikeouts. That's a phenomenal ratio. Okay, so like Fud Alex says, great game by him. Clicked the wrong comment there. Great game by him. Anaheim Angel says, loving Soriano. If he continues to improve, watch out American League. I'm going to keep saying it. I agree, and I will keep saying it. He doesn't have ace of this rotation potential. I still think he has all-star, maybe even Cy Young potential. You can't tell me there's a reason why he can't. He throws hard. He's resilient. He forces ground balls. He's getting less and less wild. He's going longer and longer into games, further and further. There's no reason why he doesn't have Cy Young potential, okay? Just putting that out there. Real quick, the rest of the bullpen we talked about, Strickland was great. Scoreless inning. Quijada, not so much. Matt Moore. He had 1 inning where he gave up a run, but it wasn't even earned. And it was, because of the extra innings rule, and Ben Joyce, you can't say anything about him. He came out, he did what he was supposed to. He threw strikes in the top of the 10th, or bottom of the 10th, with a runner on third base. All right, well, real quick, get to these comments before we wrap this one up. There were a lot. Jeff was in here early, hoping they could pull it out, but they did not. Skyler, he hit it right on the nose. He says 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position is the difference in this game. Got to be more disciplined at the plate. 2 poor at-bats for us. Yes, we talked about it so many times. The runner on second, not getting a productive out. The sack bunt failure from Nolan Shanuel. The top of the 10th inning failures. Fud Alex says the Angels lost this game by themselves. And then a lot of talk about Guillorme, which we already got to. Easton Dutton letting us know he was furious. Joe Santa Cruz, absolutely got to get better with runners in scoring position. Fud Alex, interestingly, calling for a DFA of Luis Guillorme, saying he's just taking up space at this point. I don't know if that's fair. He's hitting .221, which is not great, but I still think Brandon Drury is a DFA candidate before Luis Guillorme, because Guillorme has been a better fielder than Drury, even with the mistake today. He's also been a better hitter. 221 on this lineup is pretty darn average. Easton Dutton says, hey, at least Christian Moore is doing well today. Something to look forward to. 4 for 4 with 2 home runs for Christian Moore. I did not see that. I will be honest. Wow. Fun Alex saying debut next month for sure. I don't know. We'll see. Certainly with Rengifo being out, there's space in the infield, but at the same time, Michael Stefanic has been great. And Rendon, ironically, comes back and has a great game today. 3 for 5. Like Joe points out, he did have the opportunity to end it in the 9th. Icing on the cake after a good game. Figures he would strike out twice. Yeah, kind of typical Rendon. More talk about the Stefanic decision to take him out. Anthony Jimenez, welcome back to you. He says, no excuses, but a lot of ups and downs with a young team. It's about growing and building consistency. That is exactly what I said earlier in the postcast. You're exactly right. You can't expect young guys to be great every at-bat and every time in the field. The consistency's got to grow, and I feel like we're starting to get there. There's not as many embarrassing blowout losses. That's mainly a credit to the pitching staff and to the coaching of the pitching for keeping all these games low scoring. Okay. But yes, we're getting more and more consistent slowly. It's about building and getting even more consistent to where you're winning games like this, where you can't lose. You can't lose. Because like I said, we saw with the Mets and Yankees series, this team at its best is pretty darn good. You've got young, exciting hitters. You've got young, exciting arms all the way in the rotation in the bullpen. You've got athletes on the bases. You've got guys who can hit for power, guys who can hit for contact. There is upside. It's about consistency. And hopefully we'll keep seeing it. Hopefully. One more thing from Anthony. He says, pitching and bullpen has been good. Offense needs to be better to win these close games. Exactly. You gave up 2 runs in 9 innings, despite having 2 errors, and yet you lose the game. The hitting's just got to be better, and it will be better. It will be better. It'll be more consistent. Let's hope it is. All right, we're going to wrap this one up. Shout out to everybody in here. Great crowd, as always, on the postcast. We're getting more and more consistent. The Angels are, even in losses, but also the postcast community getting more and more consistent. Double-digit people in here live every single night now. Tons of comments. Appreciate it so much. Before I wrap this one up, please, before I even say it, you probably know what's coming. But if you don't know, react once I tell you to. If you're listening on your phone and you're watching sideways, turn it right side up, hit that like button. If you're on your laptop, scroll down, hit that like button. Leave a comment. Let me know how the postcast was. Let me know how you're feeling about our Halos. The like helps so much, and I really appreciate it above all else. But with all that being said, appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Another game against the Nats. Let's win tomorrow so that we can have a series win opportunity on Sunday. That's all you want, is to go into game 3 of every series with a chance to win the series. And we can still do that if we win tomorrow. Hey, we lost the series opener against the Yankees, and guess what happened? We won the series. Let's do it again against the Nats. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great Friday night, man. It's Friday night. Enjoy it. Don't let the Angels' loss rain on your Friday night parade, and I will join you here on Saturday when the Angels hopefully respond with a win. All right, take care, everybody, and as always, go Angels. Have a great night.